right, I'd like to introduce our speaker today is Robyn Frost. She was introduced to the chapel in 1999 by her mother, Liz Cutshaw. Today she lives in Norfolk with her husband, Richard, on property that is on its way to becoming a self-sustaining farmstead. She's an active language learner. She speaks French, German, and Spanish, and she's currently studying Sanskrit after discovering the wisdom of the Indian Upanishads. Close enough. Please welcome me in joining Robyn Frost to the podium.
All right. Okay. I am so, oh, did I just turn it off?
Yeah.
Okay. I am so glad to be here with you today because you all look beautiful. You're my favorites, and you too, who's on YouTube. Anyways, I'm glad to be here with you because I want to share with you part of my spiritual journey. And this is something, spiritual progression is the whole purpose of our life, right? I think you'll appreciate. So as you heard in the short bio, I started coming to a church or to chapel, learning about meditation, learning about reincarnation, psychic abilities, all of this, what we believe. Most of us believe here in the chapel, although you don't have to believe. We accept everyone here, anyways. But I was interested in all these ideas since I was a kid, and it was only last year that I became suddenly fascinated with India, and I saw the architecture and the art, and it was just amazing. And I picked up this book that, I don't know, I think it had been sitting around my house for a while. It's the Bhagavad Gita, and this is the main text of of Hinduism. And I opened it up and I read through it, and I read through some more, and I realized there are so many similarities in here to what I believe, what I learned here in the chapel, Metaphysical Chapel of Life. And every one of our principles, it's listed here in this book. And that just amazed me. First of all, I want to just let you know really quickly what Hinduism is. As I'm sure all of you are already scholars and you already know, but so Hinduism comes from thousands of years ago from India, and this is actually where Buddhism came from. It's an offshoot of Hinduism. It has these texts, thousands of pages that are everything from poetry to hymns to lessons. It's amazing. There's so many Upanishads and Vedas, so many lessons, and a lot of foreign words, because the language for all of this, the holy language, is Sanskrit. And so all of these texts were originally written in Sanskrit, and people will still go back to the original Sanskrit and read them. But there are English translations for any of us out of there who need them. Anyways, Hinduism, it's a peaceful religion. They accept everyone because they believe that there are many paths, many pathways, but one ultimate goal. One thing I think that is often misunderstood about this is people think, oh, this is a polytheism. They believe in all of these gods. And I want to point out that's not true. It's a monotheism. And it has to do with translation. See, the word for gods that is translated in English is originally in Sanskrit, it's Devi, Deva. This is where the term deity comes from, because all the Greek and Latin, all the European languages originally come from back there out in India, from Sanskrit. And so deity is more like a celestial being. This is a heavenly being. Deity, it's like how we have spirit guides and angels. We have all these celestial beings. We feel a lot of angels all around us right now. And so they have one overarching, so to say, it's not a hierarchy, but up top, all around, all inclusive is Brahman. That's the one God, the Supreme Almighty. So Hinduism, yeah, it's pretty groovy. But anyways, what I want to point out is their common beliefs. What I saw were the similarities between metaphysics and instead of calling it Hinduism, though, I'll call it like Hindu philosophy or Vedantic philosophy, because it is more of a way of thinking than religion. I mean, they have these deities, don't get me wrong, but the whole way of thinking is just unique. So the common beliefs, the first one is energy. Here, we're at the Metaphysical Chapel. We study metaphysics. Meta is Latin for beyond. Physics is the science of matter and energy. So what we're trying to do here, we often raise our vibrations. We try to take it up a notch. That's what we do in meditations. We raise our vibrations. We believe that it's the connecting force of all of us, all of nature, everything. We're connected by energy. You know, we can even see it. A lot of us can see it in auras, the shape around people and animals. So we're very much into energy. And for example, we have people come over here and play crystal bowls. And then you can actually, I don't know about you, but you can feel it when somebody is hitting a bowl. I don't know what you would call the term actually, but someone's playing a crystal ball. Anyways, so all this is about energy. Here's the thing, in Hinduism, the biggest, like most important word, the central concept of their whole religion is the syllable Om. If you can just say that with me like a couple more times, just Om. Om. Did you feel it? That's just, it's this amazing. They believe that in the beginning was the word, and the word was God. They think God is in that sound. It has to do with the vibrations, this energy. This Vedantic philosophy, they believe in prana. Prana, which is, if you're familiar with the Asian chi, it's the life force. So prana is all in us. It's when you already know about this, but it's what's within. It's the life force. What can I say? There's also akasha. That's a Sanskrit term, which, you know, people talk about Akashic records now and everything. But akasha, it's there's earth, air, water, fire, and in their culture, the fifth element is akasha. It's the space of nothing. It's in between every little atom, every little electron. And also Kundalini, it's the life force. There's all these terms, all these concepts that they're really, it's amazing how much science is coming now to realize that, wait a minute, the Bhagavad Gita and all the Indian texts from thousands of years ago are right, but more on that later. Anyways, so the first similarity is energy. The second similarity has to do with God consciousness and the soul. Because on our website, if you read our website, it actually says, God resides inside of every individual, not out there somewhere in the sky. I like this belief. This means a lot to me. In one of the Upanishads, it says, which Upanishad means like lesson or just text. Big words, you know. Anyways, one of them, it says, the soul is the energy of God, while he is the supreme energetic. So they believe that everything is God. It's amazing. And they believe that we all have souls that are part of God. So, and I keep pointing up there, but that's not it. It's not really up there. I just, you know, I think of God as like super huge and super small, or whatever. Anyways, so back to the soul. All this God, just up there, all this God manifestation, it's in every one of us as a soul, and this soul is immortal and eternal, and this is how the soul keeps, it's always here, even though we have one body. It's like a dress. You put on a new dress today, next life you put on a new dress. It's like clothing. What we wear is the body. So they believe in the eternal soul, so God consciousness soul. The third one is meditation, which I learned about when I was just a wee one. And I like this because we do this every Sunday, and that was a wonderful, wonderful meditation brought to us by Mr. Cloud. Okay, and but this meditation, we try to do this because, yeah, we try to raise our energy, we try to become more connected. This is actually taught in the book I showed you, the Bhagavad Gita. There are instructions on how to do this. For example, chapter 6, it says, one should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. And there are so many more lessons about meditation. They emphasize pranayama, which is breathing techniques. So it's because they're very, they believe the prana, the life force comes up depending on our breath, holding it, inhalation, exhalation. The language, the Sanskrit language actually is built around breath techniques. There's certain, it's fascinating. I'm a linguophile, you can check it out, but I won't go into details, but it's just, there's certain ways breathing is related to all of their letters, and it's fascinating. Also, there's Hatha yoga, which is, that's what we think of, we know it as the physical yoga and stretches. It's more than that. It's a lot more than that, but it has to do, that also has to do with like breathing techniques. All right, so okay, those are the main similarities. What I wanted to emphasize in this lesson is how these two, metaphysics and Hinduism, they're not only related, there's a reason. It's because I think many people today, they see metaphysics as, this is something brand new. This has come from, Edgar Cayce, like Madame Blavatsky, who is the spiritualist, the founder of that. There's Eckhart Tolle, who's, I think he's still alive. He's written books on like mindfulness. People think it's a new, something that we're just awakening up to here in America and Europe. But, and also there are others who, so there are people who think it's new. There's also others who think that this is mainly just a time, the age of Aquarius. This is a time when everyone's just coming back to realize this universal truth. I don't think that's the case either. And I think it's directly from India, how we get all this metaphysics, all of these ideas that are here right now. And first of all, not to bore you with history, but really quick, as most of you know, India was ruled by Britain, the British Raj. This started in the 1850s and lasted until right after the Second World War, 1947. But 400 years ago in the 1600s, Britain had communication. They had trade routes with India. So they were constantly going from England all the way down south of Africa and then to Bay of Bengal. And they had all these trading routes, and that had never before been established. And boy, were they making money, and boy, did the English love tea. Which, okay, excuse me. I'm not smiling at you, Elizabeth, but damn. Okay. So they had this this trade route going, and then what was coming back was all this tea, all these goods, but also there were many ideas coming back. There was a flow. You see, people became fascinated by this culture of color. And wait a minute, they dress differently, they act differently than us. Their temples look absolutely amazing, like architecture I've never seen. So all of these novelties came back. They came back around all the way south of Africa and back to England. They came back in different forms. So the first translator, Arctoy Duperron, a Frenchman, he brought over some books, but I won't go into details. How about the one that was really that we know from like philosophy, or philosophy, mostly Schopenhauer, Arthur Schopenhauer. All of his ideas come through here. It was the result of the Oriental Renaissance is what they had like at the beginning of the 1800s. You know how the Italian Renaissance, they had that from like the 15th century to like people have different dates for it, but they had this for a few hundred years, where Italian Renaissance, where all the arts and knowledge, all this was coming just very present in Europe. In 1813 or so, they had the Oriental Renaissance, where all of these ideas and fashions and everything, it just started invading Europe. And it wasn't just the British who were in India. I found out like the French were there. Like I told you, the first translator of like the sacred texts. He was there. There's a part of the French, part of India. There's also the Dutch were there. It was a very European exploration. And anyways, not to dwell on history, but one point, the Transcendentalism is a literary movement in America, like in the 1850s. And that was Ralph, Waldo Emerson, Thoreau, Walt Whitman. It was all their mindset was turning. It was specifically based on Indian thought. In fact, there's a poem from Walt Whitman called "A Passage to India," and it was just written actually right after the opening of the Suez Canal. So the trip from India back to Europe got a lot smaller, and likewise Europe to India. So transcendental is based on intuition, the unity of all. It's these wonderful ideas. Okay, so you have this change of knowledge from the East down to the West. Here's how it came directly to America. I think this is fascinating. This one person, this yogi, Swami Vivekananda, he came to America because he said, this is what I need to do. In 1893, there's this huge world's exhibit, this big fair comparing religions, I believe, in Chicago, 1893. And he presented Hinduism to people like not many people had heard of this besides these transcendental literary writers back, years prior. So he brought this and he told them in a perfect English accent, he told them about how we're immortal souls, not bodies. He told them about karma. He told them that, it seems silly. One religion does not have to prove that their God is better. He said, this is absurd. You don't need to ask for forgiveness. One part I think is really interesting, as he mentioned, that Hinduism is not idolatry, even because of figures of deities. It's more like this is how you concentrate. You look at an image and you concentrate. You're not worshiping. He pointed out many things, and you know what? Actually, this is on YouTube. They have his whole speech. It's fascinating. It's amazing to watch. I'll attach a link to it if I can. And what I found out recently is that Vivekananda, he made such an impression on America. He also, one person he met at a play, just in just kind of randomly, Nikola Tesla. And so he was at this play with Sarah Bernhardt, who she's like the first celebrity of the day, but so these two, they became friends. They started discussing items that just had intrigued Tesla before. And he's interested in, wait a minute, the energy and they're just sharing ideas. If you read through like Tesla's the work after he spoke with him, he mentions things like prana, akasha. He brings in all of these Sanskrit terms that were key to Hinduism, Vedantic philosophy, and I think it's great. I saw this one video that Swami Vivekananda, he asked Nikola Tesla. He said, like the late 1890s, he asked him. He said, "All right, now prove to me mathematically that matter and energy are interchangeable. Prove to me that matter and energy are the same. Mathematically, prove it mathematically." Well, Tesla could not do this, but it was only 10 years later, Einstein, he proved mathematically that energy equals matter times the speed of light squared, E equals mc squared. So I thought this was interesting. But really quick, it's quantum physicists became intrigued by this idea of energy, like Schrödinger, Niels Bohr. It's just this different perspective of looking at energy. There's this great book, also Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, which some of you have but have not read yet. I'm guilty. No, but he came to the US in the 20s. he settled in California. There's a big ashram in hermitage in Los Angeles that's head of this today. It's still head of the Self-Realization Fellowship. He's the one who started the idea of Christ consciousness, which I believe that's one of the principles we say here. He started this. It's a great book to read, and we'll finish that one day, right? Okay, another one, and the reason I played the song, Swami Prabhupada. He's the one that he has that translation. He has that Bhagavad Gita. I keep pointing to it, but you know what I'm talking about. All right, he dispersed this to so many places through the help of George Harrison, because what happened is so he tried to spread Krishna consciousness. Swami Prabhupada, he came to the US in 1966, and he just brought this Hare Krishna, this movement that the Beatles accepted. George Harrison, he has like mansion dedicated to all these yogis, and anybody who is just coming, he put so much money into this. He devoted, because that's one of the key aspects of Hinduism. One of the key ways to reach God is through devotion, bhakti yoga. But basically Swami Prabhupada, he came in the 60s, right, at a counterculture movement, when everyone is just, they need to move forward. Anyways, he did this and he brought out transcendental meditation. George Harrison and the whole Beatles, they went to northern India in 1968, and they actually, spent a long time there, learning lessons from them. But this is fun. I'll let you research on your own. In closing, what I want to point out is just that I think it's wonderful. I think it's really amazing that there's this religion in India that is, it has so many similarities to everything we believe. And I don't think it's a coincidence, because also I do know some people who are reading about Aborigines in Australia, and who have similar ideas that, I mean, yeah, it sounds a lot like what we believe, but they weren't even touched on in America. We didn't even really discover them until, that's a recent book. It's recent, native cultures. We didn't start getting interested in that or accepting them until I've heard from some people that it wasn't until they were a young woman in the 80s that they were proud of their Native American culture. So it's not, even though the ideas are similar to Native indigenous cultures, they didn't come from there. I think it more had to do with India coming like out west. It came out west to Europe, it touched down, and then kept going to America. And all of these ideas, they're just fomenting, brewing in the 1900s. You've got all these ideas coming up, all this science about energy. It's amazing. I think this is why we have metaphysics, because I know Bill was probably a fan of the Beatles. I mean, come on, you were. Yeah, okay. I can hear it. I can see it. Anyways, so that's all I have to say. And I really encourage each of you to just, if there's a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, or you can even find that online, but if there's something, if you have a spare minute or two, just go online and look up more about Hinduism, because it's not what you think. There are all these multiple gods, and it's great. No. They're angels and they're spirit guides and they're all this, and it has a lot of similarities to what we talk about in this chapel. All right, thank you.